hardest expression of love for me really is for the foundation. So it's easier for me to tell strangers than for me to tell my mother. I have told you a couple of times, so I think. and like my brothers and stuff, I don't remember the last time I hugged even my brother. It is so hard. But
whenever they try to hug, is a fight. And they will try to. They even gang on her trying to hug her and she cry.
Yes, it's just, I don't know. I think that is maybe I need some healing from that too. Welcome back to my channel. In this week's episode, I have, what's your name?
Mommy.
This is my mother, and we are here this week to do a sit down, a little get to know. I know some of you have requested before in past episodes and even on Instagram that she came on here, but she'll be answering my questions, not yours. And so you can get to know her a little better. I know enough, but I'm going to allow her to share herself with you. Tell the people how you grew up. Tell us about what life was like growing up. Parents, siblings, what it was like.
Okay, so I grew up in the rural side of Jamaica, what we would call the countryside. Like was my sister, myself, and my youngest brother. The others I have other siblings, but they were like in and out until the last child came. Life was, I would say, bittersweet. Let me call it that, bittersweet. There were some really good times, but there's some really hard times, sometimes that, really painful. School days were great. Oh, my favorite part, I could not forget, is the river. Oh, I enjoy my river until today. That's my treasure. So I think that was my nice spot, my river.
Well, oftentimes on here, I have spoken about how our lives as adults, how it's impacted by experiences that we had when we were children. So I speak about that on different platforms, and I always make the correlation between how we grow up, the experiences that we have, and how that feeds into the kind of adults that we become, the kind of husbands, wives, parents. How would you say that your childhood affected your adult life, good or bad?
I can speak on both. For good, it taught me what not to settle for. Because I've seen some things in life as a child, like my parents, like all the folks around me. And I think that those things allowed me to really skim through and to choose what's best. And so they were good and bad, because the negative part, for me, the negative part of life, the hardest part of life, teach me some strong lessons. And I could build on them and say, well, this is not what I would want. I saw some bad one that caused me fear. When I grew up, it took me years to be able to settle down as an adult, to know how to treat a relationship, like intimate relationships. There were fears, there were doubts, because of the concept that I gathered from childhood.
So let's get into one. Of course, this is up to you if you'd like to answer that. I know you had said before that you were okay with answering questions. So without getting into detail, because I have gone into a lot of things on here, one of the questions I think that I saw a lot, right, was my growing up. And people ask questions about how you responded to things and how you think you could have responded differently. But my question really is, how do you think your experiences as a child might have affected how you handled things with me growing up? And of course, if you have been here before, you probably know what I'm talking about. How do you think? Because I would have known a lot about your past, your experiences, your own traumas. How do you think that affected you as a mother, how you handled things, how you saw things?
My childhood taught me fear a lot. I have not spoken a lot about it publicly, but yeah, my childhood taught me fear, abuse, and different angles. Raising my kids, I dread the same fear. And not being able to talk about my childhood or my youth, not finding somebody to talk to. I never learned to talk. I haven't spoken to people like until I was like maybe, I think I was 32, 31 years old when I found this great friend, and hi Tracy, that we sat and we talked. She talked with me. We talk about like almost every area in our life. Sister Essie too, like was a part, but Tracy, I was able to dump things out on her. And so I brought that over, that trauma, I brought it all the way over to raising my kids. Like y'all, there are some things that I would have wanted to say. I didn't know how to say it. There are things that I wanted to do, I didn't know how to do. I would be honest to say that if I knew then while I was raising you all, like I know now, I would have done things differently. I would have been able to approach things without fear, because I was not the confident person that I am now. Even though people thought I was, I tried. I did my best. I did the best I could, but I wasn't that confident, as to what steps to take. And then even when something faces you, I think like the best thing to do is to hide away from it. If I had that control I have now, things would have been different.
One of the things I think I've always wanted to ask you, when my father died, right? I know it must have taken a while for you to decide to enter into a relationship with anyone. Do you think that when you decided to enter a relationship, you had healed? Or do you think that it was just a state of loneliness and you just felt like, okay, I've been alone long enough and I need to have a person? Do you think you went through the proper channels to heal, to grieve properly? First of all, did you grieve?
I grieve all my life. I'm still grieving.
Okay. All right. But did you take the time that you think, personally looking back at it now, do you think you were at that place where you were ready and able to foster any form of relationship?
I don't think it has to do with time. I think is how you allow yourself to. So looking back, like years gone by in my healing process, I realized that I really wasn't healed in our past, growing up stage, the way we were taught Christianity, the things that happened during those days cause you not even know how to deal with or to move forward into relationship. So now you see somebody that say, I like you, and you're trying to figure out, am I ready for this? But then you don't date. That's a problem. Please date. Please. You don't date. You just think that, okay, your church belief is once they see two people talking, okay, you're a couple. So now you would have seen things that you would know very well that I'm not even in for this. I don't like this. But you think that this is the right thing to do. So I'll be honest. I wasn't even in love. Times have passed because I got married 4.5 years after I lost your dad. So I think time has passed, but time doesn't go with healing. I always say that. People can be healed in 6 months, people can be healed in 3 months, people can be healed in a year, and some people still be going through for 10 years and even some for forever. So I don't think I was completely healed. I don't think I was in a position. I don't think I'd allow myself to like break down, let it go, and be ready to move forward.
Let's piggyback off that where you mentioned the church. Now you're a pastor, right? Now you have connections with different people. How do you think, because you were the young person then in church, being influenced by the church, how do you think you would handle a situation similar to what you were in with the different things that you went through even after you were married? How do you think now you would advise a young person who is in that situation? It's toxic. It's clearly not working out. They're not in love. Like you said, you were not in love. You realize they're not in love. You realize this isn't going anywhere. You realize that this right here is a recipe for disaster. How would you now, being the church mother, like you would have had church mothers and fathers then, how would you handle a situation like that?
First and foremost, some times ago, even before, when I was an evangelist, I wasn't a pastor yet. I told a young couple liking each other, but they were having struggles. I told them, I said, you are to date, not court. If you meet somebody for the first person you met, you don't like the person, be free to forget about it and move on. My senior pastor at the time, he heard that I said it and he was mad at me. Yeah, because ignorance is a great thing, is a bad thing, big thing too in church. He thought that I was opening ground for people to move from one person to the other. You know, now from that time, looking at it now as a pastor, I'm gonna tell my young people, if you don't like something, that's why you date, to know about each other. You're setting a stage. You don't marry and then date, or you date first. So you're trying to understand if this is what you want. It's not a conclusion. You're trying. So if you're somewhere in the middle and you see something not going right, be free to walk away from it. Respectfully, of course. If people are in a relationship that things are toxic, like for Christ's sake, the first thing you do is bring it to Christ, bring it to church, bring God into it. First to begin, the relationship should be built on Christ, right? Bring God into it after discussions and counseling and all of that, and it doesn't work. You need to do what's best for you. It's not okay to raise children in toxic homes and then we wonder why our kids turn the way they turn out. And there's so many things that I look back, even raising you all, I look back on it and I'm like, if I knew then what I know now, it couldn't have happened, because you're setting a generation, you're building a foundation for generations to come. So you need to at least be able to understand that you can't just say I love just from your mouth. It comes with action. And if you really love, then you should love these little things that you're bringing up. These kids, you should figure out what's going to happen to them if this is a foundation of a home that they're seeing.
Speaking of that, so we grew up where it was myself and my two brothers. You just mentioned toxic homes. Where was that point where you realized, like, it finally hits you that the home that we were being raised in, because we all had our own issues. Everyone handled everything different. Everyone, I think, was dealt a different blow based on the home situation. When was that point where you finally realized that it was not healthy for me, it was not healthy for any of the other two brothers? When did you realize that, okay, I need to do something about this. I need to save my children then from whatever is happening, to try to see if there's anything good that can come out of them then?
Okay, so when I totally walk away, you were like 18, 17?
17.
Okay, I totally walk away when you were 17. I'd walked away before and I thought that I had to do this for them.
Yeah.
But let me all tell you again, it's a relationship between a man and God, a human being and God. It's not what you wish for the person or what you think the person is going to do. It all depends on the person. So one of the mistake, I call it a mistake, because I learned how to own your mistakes just like you own your success. They're both yours. You need to own them both, right? So I think the mistakes that I made, expecting that people are going to change. People don't change because of your expectations. People change because they want to be changed. Yes, you can encourage people. Yes, you do help people. Some people just need help. We all need each other. But not because I'm helping you doesn't mean that you're going to change. You got to want to change. So I offer you my hand. You got to be willing to hold my hand to get up. You're thirsty, I offer you the water. You don't want to drink it? You don't have to drink it. It's my point to hand you the water. So all this time, these years wasted, I would want to say wasted years. I have no regrets. I have my two handsome sons and I love them so much. My beautiful queen, my beautiful queen, my beautiful queen. I have no regrets. I have any of them, but I wasted some years trying to think that people will change because I want them change. Things had happened along the way in the relationship where I would have called it done. And other people say, oh, pray about it. Yes, pray. That's the right thing to do. But you need to also know, like when the Lord spoke to Joshua, right? Joshua was like crying before God, and God said, you need to do some work. It's not just prayer. He said, get up and search the camp. So there comes a time you need to act. When you're thinking about a relationship, a marriage, do remember that God does not need the flower to put in your pot. He'll provide a way, he'll open a way for you to get a job, to buy the pots, to buy the stove, but he's not going to put his hand into your flour. You got to do that part. There's something that you need to do about you.
Yeah.
So the time I wasted was to hope that this person would understand he made mess and mess and messes and more messes. And my church, my leaders, I was now an evangelist, church secretary, youth director, Sunday school teacher, treasurer for church, and acting secretary for church, and all eyes are on you. In charge of the youth department, all eyes are on you. So I would have gone to my pastor, God bless his soul, and I would have said, this is happening, and he'd be like, you gotta be praying, you gotta be praying. And there was this particular time I remember I went to him and I said, I'm gonna let this thing go. It's not good for me. It's not good for the kids. The environment is bad. And he said, you can't do that. All eyes are on you. The church is this, the church is that, and the church, what are you going to tell the young people? And of course, I'll go back to my room and I would cry rivers. Because now I'm seeing that my kids are in trouble. I'm seeing that what I thought I wanted, what the kids that I want to raise, I couldn't see that. Because there was trouble around, trouble in every angle. And I'll be trying to say to him, but pastor this, pastor that, and be like, oh, let's pray. I even spoke to the mother of my church in tears. I brought down, I'm on my knees, my heart is on the floor, and I'm saying, I can't do this. You know, it's too much for me. And she'd be like, but you can't because, you can't because.
But do you think, though, that the reason why the church does that, well, a lot of churches, not every church, do you feel like the reason why they do that, it's because it is more important for them to keep up an image of perfection than to actually care about what their members are going through? Or do you think it's just blatant illiteracy? They don't know how to address it? Or is it that you think they don't want to address it, or they don't know how to address it?
I think they don't know. From a church that I was in at that time, I really think they didn't know how to address it. Then ignorance is a powerful thing too, but some don't want to learn.
Yes.
Some people just don't want to learn.
Let us move forward on a more positive note, because I think where you are right now is a place where many women don't ever get to, because what happens is they suffer so much hurt, there's so much trauma, there are so many negatives that I often hear men say, like a lot of men say, the reason why they shy away from dating certain women is because by the time they get to a certain age, the experiences they would have had would have already changed them. So they come with all this baggage, they come with all this trauma ready to project. I experienced that from a lot of women. I'm sure some of you have, where they're so bitter by the time they get to a certain point. They get to late 40s and it's almost like they're always battling with someone. What do you think was the most important part for you where you are right now? You're remarried and you're in love, because you said you weren't in love before. Can we just say it for the camera to make sure I don't...
Well, I only ever fell in love like maybe 3 times of my life. One in my very young stage, you know, the crush young love thing. And once with, of course, your daddy, everybody knew that. And then, of course, the love of my life that, you know, God had in a little short pan waiting for me, you know, yeah.
How would you advise like women? Because I know recently I was on a live with someone and she said some of the hardest people to date or to get into relationships is women once they've hit 40s. Because she said, no, the expectations are different. They don't know what to expect. They are so damaged that they want to hide away. What would you say to a woman that is in her 40s who's probably single and she's considering that she might want to be with someone, or even 50s, 60s too? Because I know people in their 70s who are still considering. What would you say to women like that?
Men think it's hard to date those people, or women
Yeah,
at that
I've
age
heard
think
it.
it's hard.
Yes, men have a problem dating women at that age because they think they're so damaged. They've been divorced. They've gone through so many negatives that they can't put themselves out there anymore. They can't embrace love. They can't feel love. They don't know how to tread these new waters. What would you say to women, even women in their 30s? Let's be real. There are a lot of women who have experienced a lot of trauma in different eras of their lives, in different things. And so that affects how we move forward. How would you advise? Because you've gone through some things. So how do you advise young women, women your age, women whatever age about moving forward and possibly meeting someone?
Well, I think the people who had gone through trauma within childhood, young adulthood, I think those are the people that are harder to deal to date. I think because they have not been healed. Healing doesn't have a specific age attached to it, but if people really want to move forward, I think at age 45 is when people really looking into the mirror, really, especially people that have been battered. People have gone through a lot. I think that at age 40 is when they're really looking into the mirror. There is when you know if this is what you want. The pain, because when you look in your mirror, you're looking those eyes, you're seeing those pains. Those pains that you've carried from 12, 11, 9, 8, coming all the way up until maybe 30, 29, 27, 25. Those pains, they're still in your eyes. Maybe you alone see them in the mirror. You struggle with them. The time of shame, like for the transition between 25 up until 30, that's when the shame hits you the worst. That's when the pain hits you the worst. But by the time you get to 40, for me, I can't speak for everybody, but I've spoken to a few people who say the same thing. By the time you get to 40, you're still looking in the mirror, you're seeing those pain. You're now deciding, do I want to keep this pain? This is how I want to live. Yeah, for me, I decided like I'm gonna take my years. I really didn't plan on getting married again. I'm gonna take my years because I know now that I got a bag. I got a baggage. I've been carrying things from my childhood. I've been carrying things from raising my own children. There were so many things that are crammed together, and I now realize that I can't go across with these. I don't want them anymore. I choose now. Do I keep them? Do I let them go? Or what do I do? I choose to go through the healing process. I went through and I decided I want to be healed. I want to be whole. I want to be fresh. I want to be made brand new. And I work for that. Talk to your friends. Talk about it. It doesn't matter. I thought that there were things you couldn't talk about. When you just started talking about them, that's when you find yourself letting loose of them. They're like real baggages on your head, on your back, on your shoulder. Once you start talking about them, it's like letting them go. Allow yourself to heal. There's nobody like me. I'm the most beautiful thing in the world. I don't know. I see some beautiful people. And yes, you're beautiful, hon. You are. But me, I'm special. I'm beautiful. I'm wonderfully made. I'm like, I got the best of everything, the best shape. I got everything of me.
Now, because the last time I made those proclamations, there were Christians on here who were arguing that I was vain.
Oh, I'm sorry for
and
them.
they were quoting scriptures.
I don't want to be sorry for you, but you need pity whoever think that way. But yeah,
that the Lord doesn't like people who are vain. So
oh yeah, well I am beautiful. I am wonderfully made, and when I think of wonderfully made, I'm perfectly put together. I started setting my boundaries. I choose if I let you in. There's special people that are allowed to come all the way in, but I protect me. That's what brought me to the place where I can be open again. So 12 years after, I decided, okay, I'm still young. No, girl is just beautiful. I was like, oh, hey, this girl needs to go back on the shelf.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So there's this saying that I heard. I don't remember where I heard it. It said, if you want to know what a woman will become, look at her mother. And that is true in so many instances.
Yeah, yes, you're beautiful like me.
Was it important to you growing up, or when you started to grow into yourself? Was there ever a point where you're like, I do not want to be like my mother?
Oh, yes. I looked at so many things as a child. I was hoping for one day I would wear that pretty little dress, you know, maybe walking and marching or have the pretty thing around my head to be a mini bride or a bridesmaid or something. And I wonder why my mom would sit with somebody for so many years and they never got married. And I'm like, not me. I can't do that. Another thing is my mother, she was very, very aggressive. That's another topic. And I told myself, when I have my kids, I'm not going to beat them. You know, I don't want to be mad at them. I don't want them to be afraid of talking to me. You know, so there are some things, there are many things that I watched as a child growing up, and I didn't want to be that kind of a person at all.
Well, speaking of children, I know that there are things, because I remember, I think you had written me a letter, and I think you gave a letter to each of us. If there was something that I'm pretty sure my brothers will watch this, that you would want to tell them, because for me, I call this my virtual album where even years after, because I think YouTube will be around for a while, even years after we pass, I think these should still be here.
Mhm.
So if there was something that your sons are watching, I am here, that you would want them to know, things that you might have or might have not said, what, I'll let you choose whatever it is that you would like for them to know.
I think I told them everything I want them to know. I personally have spoken to my 3 children. As I said, I went through the process of healing, right? I had to know, tell my child. I told her, I said, I am sorry. I messed up. I dropped the ball there. There are things that I should have done. There are decisions that I should have made. There are steps that I should have taken. I should have seen the whole mess and be strong enough, brave enough to move forward and make decisions, but I didn't. Why? No, why? I can't figure why at that time I didn't. But it's okay to know that you realize now. I don't know. I don't have things to tell all I can tell my children is that they are always thinking that they are some special one, their favorite one. And the bad thing about it is that all 3 blame each other for being the favorites. I don't know how they're going to get past that. Now I want them to know that they need to stop fighting about that, because I only have 2 favorites and they're my 2 grandkids.
I know my brothers are watching, and I would just like to take this moment to say, that's all I'm going to say.
So I'm still trying to let them know that I am very conscious of the fact that I dropped the ball a lot of path raising them up. I use fear. I listen to other people. Some of the things I didn't understand, and some I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And some of the things I did as best as I could. So I had to tell them I'm sorry. And they know I love them. They know. So I want to tell my kids, listen, please do your best in raising my grandkids. Don't let me have to come get you. Please do your best, because these are my heart. And I told my granddaughter recently, I said, listen to me. I get a second chance to raise kids, and that's what I think grandmothers are, grandparents are, raising for the second time. I get a second chance. And I told her, whatever I miss, whatever ball I drop raising your mother, I'm going to make sure I do it right this time.
Speaking of that, there are parents who, like you said, some of the decisions that you made might have been from fear or whatever the other reasons are. What would you say to parents who realize now in this day and age that there's something not working out? There is obviously behavioral patterns, because a lot of times that's it too. The children will show you that they're not comfortable. The children will show you that the environment is toxic because they pick up on things. What would you say to parents who are at that place right now where they can tell the children are unhappy? Because I also know of a lot of people who stay married, who stay in relationships, and they say they're trying to keep the family together. I personally have had conversations with people who say, well, it is important for them to have 2 parents in a household. What would you say to parents who are trying to keep both parents in the household, realizing that it is at the cost of the children's happiness, it is at the cost of their peace of mind, of their emotional health? What would you tell a parent who came to you and said, I know something is off, but I'm trying to keep it together?
What are you keeping together, though? Mm-hmm. Are you trying to keep you and your partner together, or are you trying to keep your kids sane? First and foremost thing is, like I said, people tend to have misunderstanding to the scripture. People be telling women straight up, what God put together, let no man pull asunder.
And God didn't put them together.
Then did God put it together?
Yeah.
Good question. Yeah. Did God put it together? The second thing is, the Lord told men, he gave men the head.
Yes.
Control. But he told them, man, he didn't even tell the woman to love the man. He said, man, love your wife. Yes. Men's responsibility is to cover, shelter their family. Yes. When men have lost that, did you all know, I'm sorry, I'm not preaching, but Adam is the one that really caused the problem, because God has given it to him the rights to protect, to shelter, to shield.
Yes.
He let it go.
Right.
Most of our men, they want to drop the ball. They want to do what they want to do, because I hardly find men fighting for their family. It's so sad.
Always the woman fighting.
A small percentage of men saying, I'm trying, it's hard for me. But the men want to cheat, God did not tell you to cheat. He said, love your wife. Take care of your
Like
wife. So,
Christ loved the church,
like
and I've never
Christ loved the
seen
church. That's
Christ
a
cheat on the
sacrificial
church.
love. That's a sacrificial
Right?
love because Christ gave his
I
life
never
for the
cheated on the
church.
church.
So
Yeah.
when he said men love, he's not just talking about this mushy mushy. He's talking about the sacrificial love.
Yeah.
The love that make you go beyond and above.
Yes.
Bend over, feel the pain to take care of your
Carry the
family.
burden of the
You
family.
know, so if you can't do that, you've already lost it. What am I going to fight for if you don't want it?
Yeah.
Woman, it is your responsibility to know what's good for your kids because, yes, they are great men. I salute you, sirs. They are great men that are standing up and they're raising their kids well.
Doing the
Again,
right
I
thing
salute you.
and
But
leading the house.
and they're leading the house. They're taking control. They're doing the Adam role. You know, but for people that are complaining that this man is abusive, like God didn't tell the man of the house to beat the woman.
Right.
The man not taking care of the family. He's not feeding us. He's
He's
having
not
women all
providing,
over the
not
place. He's
protecting.
not
Yeah.
protecting us. He's doing this. He's molesting the kids. He's physically abusing, sexually abusing. Like that was not the plan of God. So when you walk away from the plan of God, you have destroyed your relationship. So I would tell women, don't let these children be the living sacrifice.
So stay together
Right?
at their expense. Yeah.
Yeah. So my kids suffered for that. I had to know I've come a long way and I'm still working on them. They suffered for that because the home that should be a place of safety, a comfort, a zone where peace is, they didn't see that. They didn't see that. So they suffered for it because trying to get things to stay together, it doesn't work. If it's not working for Christ's sake, I have seen death as a result. Yeah,
For
so
me, I've spoken to like single mothers before, like myself, and one of the things that I find that they struggle with is the disappointment that you feel like you made the wrong decision. Because I felt that at a point where, man, I could have done such a better job at picking the right father for you. And there are lots of young women who are afraid of being called single mothers because that's another topic. The burdens that come with, oh, if you're a single mom, then you're not doing it right. And then almost like you are blamed for being a single mother because we know there is no accountability on the parts of men, where men aren't blamed for leaving the household.
right.
Women are blamed for
For being
staying and
single.
for doing it the right thing. And
Yeah.
it has to be something wrong with you. How would you encourage a young woman who realizes that, okay, chances are I have one, two, already have three children, but like we mentioned, for the sake of the children, for not having them as a living sacrifice, how would you encourage her? Because there came a point where you had to do that, where you had to acknowledge that, okay, well, one is not by any choices that you made because my father died, but now you realize that you are a single mother with three children and this is now the role that you had to play. How would you encourage a woman who's at that place right now where she's realizing that maybe this is what I have to do. Maybe I have no choice. This is the card that have been dealt to me. How would you tell her to go about that? How should she approach that?
You need a lot of self-talk. Start looking at things. Is this what I want? How is it going to benefit me? How is it affecting me? How is it going to affect my kids? There comes a time you have to shut out
The outside.
the outside.
Yeah.
Not what people gonna say, not what people think of you. Because truly, you're not who people think you are. You are who you know you are. So some of these decisions that you have to make, you gotta like, not care one dry crackers. I was told that by a bishop. Not care one dry crackers what anybody else say. What is best for my kids?
Yeah.
The time I invite families, to be family, be supportive to your people. Some people wouldn't walk away because they know that they're gonna need financial help. They need support. Like I struggle raising my kids. I did. I struggle. I struggle with people to take care of them. I struggle with financial support. Not only financially. Listen to your family member. Listen to your sister. Listen to your brother. People die because people don't listen to them. I wasn't a person who spoke about things. So my siblings would have told you. My older sister should be like, "You were too secretive." I didn't talk. My brother, I didn't tell them what I was going through.
But do you feel though that even if you spoke to them, and this of course is a transparency moment, do you feel like if you had opened up more, do you think you would have been supported though?
I will say I don't think so.
Yeah.
I will say word, just saying, I don't know why you choose. Because this is what family member says most of the time. My family, other family, other family, most. That's why I'm saying I'm inviting family at this time to be family.
Yeah.
Listen to your people and let them know you listen.
Yeah.
They already know they made wrong. They already know that I made a wrong decision. And be there to say, you're going to have to make a better decision for your kids. And we're here for you.
Yeah.
If the person is a problem to the wife or to your brother, to your sister, your cousin, whoever, and they have to go, they need to let them go. But most of them are afraid that, who am I going to turn to? And I decide, I don't care what nobody else think, right? For some reason, I broke my plan, my vows because of, again, what other people say. Give it a chance. Pray about it. We are helping you pray. And trust me, a lot of these people that are helping you pray, they won't be helping you pray for the first day or first week until you
Then
make the
they've
same bad
forgotten.
decision they're encouraging you to make. And then
Yeah.
when you make that bad decision, they're nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Be sick and tired enough to walk away from it. Save yourself, save your children.
Walk away. I remember you said earlier I was going to address it then, but I said I would wait. When I asked you if there was ever anything about your mother that you said, I don't want to be like her. If I'm going to be honest, when I was younger, maybe after I had Shani, one of my goals, well, I had two goals. One, the man that I would be with could not look anything like my brother's father. And I spoke about that before, about could not drive a similar color vehicle, didn't even want the same brand vehicle, couldn't have the same height, the same look. But as long as my partner did not look like him. But equally, my goal when I had Shani was I did not want to be anything like you. And for that, I will break it down to explain, because I remember growing up and thinking to myself, this cannot be it. At one point, I think when I was in my teens, I said, maybe she was so badly damaged after my father died that I literally, and I can say no because we can talk now, I literally said she didn't have any sense, right? I said, there is no way this woman has any sense whatsoever. And I remember thinking, and it made me angry to a point too, because even the way I would have responded to men, the simplest of things, I would tell you, I would get really upset because I'm like, are you crazy? I'm not like my mother. You're not going to talk to me like this. So maybe I was the instigator. I don't know. In some instances, I maybe provoked these men to wrath. But in the back of my head was only, I do not want to be like my mother, because I just felt like she put up with too much. I felt like she was way too tolerant. In my head, I am like, that I would have to go. I saw things that I consider major that now I understand how she was viewing it. But then I'm like, no, but that's not a minor. That's not something you can look past. And I just remember thinking to myself, if I grow up, if I am the mother who's nothing like her, then I would have succeeded in being a better woman. I felt like there was a lot of pain, and I could see, I never saw love in the home. That's one thing I knew. And I also knew that I wanted a home that there was love. And they have this saying that says, I might have not come from a loving home or a healthy home, but I want to create that. I didn't know what that looked like, but I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted. And so as I got older, I can say that now I'm proud of the woman that you have become. I am proud that I am proud of you in more ways than I think you know. Guys, if I don't know how many of you know me, but I am not the emotional daughter. I am not. I love my mother to death. I love my brothers. I am closer to one than the other. And even the one that I'm closer to, if he gets on the phone right now and say, I love you, I might just hang up the phone. I'm not that person, but I think they know my heart. And that a lot is because I think made myself that way from a little girl. I just felt like, yeah, this emotion things, you don't see it, I know what it feels like, but I don't know how to do that. And so I can say
I
that.
hope you learn.
No, it's funny enough.
Because
Funny
you
enough.
got it. I know you do.
I know how to express myself with partners. So I have no issue saying to a man, I love you. I have no issue expressing myself that way. I have no issue expressing myself to my daughter. Now I am learning to do it more with my friends because of, I think, the space that they provided for me. They understood. And so now I try to end conversations with, I love you. It's harder to say, Sometimes after we hang up, I'll type, I love you, but they know. So I'm trying to, and it's easier for some reason. There are women that I'll be pouring into and I say, listen, I love you. And I really mean it. It's just harder. And I think the hardest expression of love for me really is for the foundation. So it's easier for me to tell strangers than for me to tell my mother. I have told you a couple of times, though, I
Yeah.
think. And like my brothers and stuff, I don't remember the last time I hugged even my brother. It is so hard, but
Whenever they try to hug, is a fight. And they will try to. They even gang on her trying to hug her and she cry.
yes, yeah, it's just I don't know. I think that is maybe I need some healing from that too. I just wanted to know that it has
And don't
been.
worry, I struggled with that too. I probably didn't tell you. I was able to, you see, you're able to hug your child, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's easy for me to hug them. It was no challenge at all to hug my kids. I was able to hug my kids and by extension my nieces and all of that.
Yeah.
But it was hard I don't remember if I ever hugged my mom. I'm trying to remember. But I'm like getting close to my mom was the hardest thing. Like the pain goes on. Like until you got healed, you wouldn't have known. I couldn't express love.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, if kids didn't see love, you can't tell them that there was love. Kids have to know that there's love in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Not by you saying, I love your dad or I love you. That's not how people learn love. Like, trust me, the word love is used loosely. Right? But that's not how people learn love. Kids have to know that there's love in the house by seeing your body language, or you deal with each other, the respect and whatever you do. That's how kids learn love. I never saw love in my house. I don't know love. I never knew love. And then my mother was abusive, so I grew up not knowing love. So when I started having my kids, I could express, like with her dad, we were literally learning. If that probably had gone, to maturity, then I probably would have developed there. But then when that died, it's like that love, that growth, that process died. I would sit down, I would talk to them, I would tell them, hug each other, say, I'm sorry. I would do that.
Yeah,
But
that was
that's not
hard.
enough because they did not see
That was
love.
really hard.
They
I
did
think
not
that was
see
more
love.
punishment. That was more
Yeah.
punishment for me than
So how you
anything
be
else.
telling somebody you kind of tell somebody to
Yeah.
love. So if kids don't see love, it's kind of hard for them. It's something they have to grow. Most of the time, they have to be re-nurtured into it. I told my kids, I don't hide it from them. I told them, I messed up. I messed up. They didn't see love. They didn't know what love was as kids. And so her growing up, not even know how to hug, because when they were kids and when they mess with each other, I would tell them, say, I'm sorry. And then they would quickly say, I'm sorry. But then I said, then hug each other. And they would cry. They had to do it. They had to hug each other and say, I'm
Or I
sorry,
would cry.
sister.
I don't think they
But
cried. I cried.
yeah, they didn't want to do
But you
it.
got a hug before.
Yeah, they want to say, I'm sorry, and then moving right along. I am probably why she doesn't know how to express that kind of a love. Because she probably did not see me expressing it. Well, she knew I loved her. Then she also mentioned that at a certain stage, she didn't see that. Right? Because seeing what the family was going through, all, what seemed to be set in front of her, how could this be love? So this is how our kids grow up the same way. And we are breeding some people that are going to come up and do the same thing if we don't stand on our feet to defend them, if we don't do the right thing.
Speaking of people that we are growing up, you are now a grandmother of 2. She says one day it will be how many?
7.
She said one day she'll be a grandmother of 7. Ramanda, if you're watching this, Ramoy, you have work to do. Nicole, you have more work to do. But speaking of generation to come, I think we will end on this note. You have 2 grandchildren, a beautiful granddaughter and an amazing grandson.
Whew.
If there was something, because they're not at the age yet that you would write them a letter or whatever, maybe the day will come, I don't know, you might want to carry that on. If your grandchildren, Kajan is too young to watch this, but I'm sure he will eventually one day, and Shani is old enough, what would you like to say to your grandchildren? So you can look at the camera and speak to them.
Oh my goodness.
What would you like to say to both your grandchildren?
Okay, my dear sweet princess, don't narrow yourself to people's opinion of you. There's no limit. You can be what you want to be. Grow your self-esteem. Know great about yourself. When other people tell you about yourself, it's a compliment. You already knew that. Just keep soaring, keep growing. Don't settle. Mediocrity doesn't work. You need to go to the utmost. If it's not okay, it's not okay. Just be the person who understands when it is enough. Learn what is wrong from what is right. Own your progress and your success. Own your mistakes as well. Think for yourself. Okay, John? I want to tell you, my young man, that you're just not even a year old yet. I prophesied before you all were born. I keep prophesying. I gave you a biblical name. All my 7 grandkids have biblical name, right? I prophesy over them. And Kejon, you're not going to be nothing like anybody else that you've come from. You're going to be very successful, and you're going to be somebody's father and a good husband too, a good leader. We are here. We'll support you.
It was nice to have you. I don't know. Will you be back?
Oh, well, yeah, because there are some other topics that, we want to focus on. Of course, yeah, I'll be back. Okay. Love you all.
Well, guys, thank you for having us. Thank you for joining. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Oh, do not forget to like, to share, to subscribe, and to comment. Let me know what you felt about this episode. Also, let me know if you'd like for her to come back. If you have questions for her to answer, you can let me know in the comments section, and I will maybe open a box on Instagram. You know, the usual, so you can put your questions there. I will see you in the next episode.
See you soon.